Hi, Mr. Richards here, and today's lesson is on measures of center. We're going to start off by going over some vocabulary, such as what is statistics? Well, statistics is the study of collecting, organizing, and interpreting information or data. Next, we have measures of center. For a list of numerical data, numbers that can represent the center of the data are measures of center. And there are three that we're going to start off with today, and those are mean, median, and mode. When you think about mean, median, and mode, all three can be used to describe the center of data. Well, real quick, what is mean, median, and mode? To calculate mean, we take the sum of the data and divide it by the number of items in the data set. To find the mean, you look for the middle number of the data as long as it's ordered from least to greatest. Now sometimes you have two middle numbers, so you take the mean of the middle two numbers. You add them up and divide by 2. And lastly, to find the mode, it is the number or numbers that occur most often. Sometimes we get confused and think mode is the largest number because we hear mode, most, but it's the number that occurs the most often. In our first example, we need to find the mean, median, and mode of the data in the table and round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Well, let's start off with the mean. And with the mean, we're going to add up all of our numbers, so the 601 plus 461 plus 436 plus 435 plus 431 plus 423, 404, 380, 377, and lastly 373. And we're going to then divide it by the number of terms that we have. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now luckily, we do have a calculator to help us with this. And so when I add up all 10 numbers, you get 4,321 divided by 10. And when you divide that by 10, you get 432 and 1/10. So the mean is 432 and 1/10. What about the median? To calculate the median, we need to have these numbers in order from least to greatest. So let's start that. We have 377, then 300, actually we have 373 first, then 377, then 380, 404, 423, 431, and actually this table appears to be already in order, which is very helpful. But sometimes your tables will not be, so it's always good to rewrite them at least in order from least to greatest. And then we need to find the middle number, and there's a lot of different strategies of going about doing that. One of them is to count the number of terms that you have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can say, all right, I have 10 numbers. If I add 1 to that, then divide by 2. I get 11 divided by 2, which is 5.5. That tells me that my median is the 5.5 term, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my median is going to be right here. And if you use the older way of going, all right, cross this one off, cross this one off, cross this one off, cross that one, this one, this one, this one, this one, we do end up with the two middle numbers. Well, this is just a way to calculate where your middle number is going to be in the set of data. That'll be easier as your data sets get larger. Now, this was the second part of median where it says the mean of the middle two numbers. So now we get to go, all right, 423 plus 431 and divide that by 2. 423 plus 431 is 854. And after I divide that by 2, we get 427. So the median is 427. Now the mode is the number that occurs the most often, and each data point only occurs once. So for the mode, we can write, well, no mode. In example 2, we are asked, the table shows the scores of the two football teams for their first 8 games of the season. Compare the mean and median scores. Well, let's start with Team A. And let's calculate their mean first. Well, we have 6, 35, plus 13, 27, 31, 18, 8, and 10. And we're going to divide those by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, just making sure our question was right. And when you add those numbers up, the result is 148. And after you divide by 8, the mean is 18 and a half, 18 and 5 tenths. Now for the median for Team A, we do need to get these numbers ordered from least to greatest. There are 8 games. Let's make sure we write down 8 numbers. We'll have 6, 8, 10, 13, 18, 27, 31, 35. And again, it's helpful to say, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have all of my games. Now, again, a way to calculate where the median is going to be, instead of just going, all right, cross this off, 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 cross this off. Hey, look, I have 2 middle numbers, is to say, I have 8 games. If I add 1 to that, then divide by 2, I get 9 divided by 2, which tells me that my median is the 4.5 term, or in between the 4th and the 5th term. Well, just by our little quick cross-off method, where does our median turn out to be? Well, in between the 4th and the 5th term. So again, it could really help us out instead of having to cross off when our data gets to be larger. So either way, it's in between the 4th and the 5th term. So 13 plus 18 divided by 2 gets us 31. Divided by 2 is 15.5, or 15 and 5 tenths, or 15 and a half. So that's Team A. Now we get to work on Team B. So to calculate their mean, we have 25, 14, 31, 8, 42, 26, 18, lastly 29, and they also played 8 games. So I can divide that by 8. And this sum is 193 divided by 8 is 24 and 125 thousandths. What about their median? Well, again, we need to get these games in order from least to greatest. Their lowest scoring game was 8, followed by 14, then 18, 25, 26, 29, 31, and 42. And again, it doesn't hurt to check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. Now, just using this up here, our median, now that we're in order, should be in between the 4th and the 5th term, the 4.5 term, which would have been right here. Well, when you add 25 and 26 and divide by 2, your result is going to be 25 and a half, 25 and 5/10. So now we get down to the comparison part. We can answer this question now by writing the mean for team A is 18 and 5/10, or 18 and a half, and the mean for team B is 24 and 125 thousandths. What about the medians? Well, the median for team A is 15 and 5/10, or 15 and a half, and the median for team B is 25 and a half, or 25 and 5/10. And now we come down to our concluding statement. If we look at both the means and the medians for the two teams, team A is less than team B for both mean and median. So we can conclude by writing using either mean or median, team A scores are less than team B's scores. And that's how we can compare mean with median of two different teams. Next, we get to choose an appropriate measure, and our key concept box here with using mean, median, and mode. The mean is the most useful measure when the data has no extreme values, values that are much greater or much less than the rest of the data. We can use the median when it's most useful, when the data has extreme values, or there are no big gaps in the middle of the data. The mode is useful if the data has many repeated numbers. So, May took a poll in her class to see how many times her classmates visited the local amusement park. Her classmates told her they visited the park 4, 0, 2, 3, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, and 0 times during the summer vacation. Which measure of center best represents the data? Justify your selection and find the measure of center. Well, all the data seems to be between 0 and 4. So there's certainly no extreme value, so mean could be an option. Median really isn't an option here because the data doesn't have extreme values. We're just in between 0 and 4. And when we look at mode, where the data needs to have many repeated numbers, well, we have the 4 repeated twice. We have 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. We have 0 here twice. We have 1 there twice. So there's a lot of repeated data. And so mode is probably going to be our most useful here. And so to write this answer, I'd say my selection is going to be mode, as there are many repeated values. That's my justification. And when looking for the answer here, well, which number occurs the most often? Well, 4's there twice, but 2's there 1, 2, 3, bouncing around 4, 5, 6 times. Easily the most. So our answer is 2 times to the park. The weekly salaries for the employees at Bob's Bookstore are $600, $600, $625, $1,250, $1,800. Which measure should the manager use to show new employees that salaries are high? Well, this is a different type of question. This is almost asking to skew the data, to make it seem like the data is saying something that it's really not. So you almost want to think backwards here. Go, well, what data can I use that's going to make my point? Well, there are extreme values here. We're going from $600 to $1,800. So there are extreme values. And so mean's useful when there are no extreme values, but since there are here, and we're trying to prove a point that might not necessarily be true, we may want to look at mean as an option. Median, we do have extreme values here, and median would be a fair way to measure the data. Think about that. Median would be a fair way to measure the data, perhaps in here. Well, the manager doesn't want to be fair here. He wants to try to convince new people that the salaries are higher than they really are. And the mode's most useful when you have many repeated numbers, and we do have 600 here as our repeat, but that's on the low end, and we want to convince them on the high end. And so I would say take a look at mean here. To calculate that mean, you go 600 plus 600 plus 625 plus 1,250, it's double the first 3 salaries, and then 1,800, which is 3 times those first 2 salaries. Well, you'd end up dividing that by 5, and once you add, you end up with 4,875 divided by 5, which gets you a mean salary of $975. Well, the first 3 salaries are below that, far below that, over $300 below that. So if I'm the manager and I'm trying to convince new hires that, hey, I'm the place to work, my average salary is $975. Well, that might be true, but is it deceptive? Well, yeah, it is. And that's the point of the question. He wants to use the data that is deceptive. Now, the median would have been $625 here, which does not show the high cost. And the mode would have been $600. So even if you were to go through and calculate all 3, the mean is the highest one, as it shows and includes the extremely high salary of the $1,800. That is it for this lesson on measures of center. Good luck.